Welcome once again to Good Morning Sri Lanka. Now, we were talking about the 16 days of activism that was kicked off yesterday on Sunday at the Golf Face Green, which MTV Sports is also a media sponsor of. Now, this is mainly focusing on eradicating and getting rid of gender-based violence and sexual abuse, and basically promoting women empowerment as well. Now, Dawn, if you'd just like to mention a comparative, you've been here in Sri Lanka since 2005. If you just like to, you mentioned earlier that it's a common problem that a lot of countries face. Would you just like to mention a comparative of Sri Lanka and other countries? How big of a problem is it in these two countries? And is there any significant differences?
I honestly do not believe that in terms of prevalence and incidences in terms of gender-based violence and sexual violence, it's fairly common in most countries, like I said, right? But in looking back to response and into during the time that I've been here, I mean, now there's helplines and there's hotlines, and you've got a ton of dedicated professionals who are completely committed, who have spent their entire careers making sure that they're making the revisions that are necessary to be able to respond with international best practice, and that's where we are today. I mean, like, it's a gateway to being able to respond to gender-based violence with access to resources. I mean, look at the media, right? I mean, we're seeing reports of sexual assault, of child sexual abuse, of people raising their voices and wanting to rise up and speak up and say, this is unacceptable, right? Like, we cannot condone sexual violence in our country, in our community. It's not okay. And so I think that that's great. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for growth, right? And we all need to work together, from grassroots advocates to policymakers to everyone in between, need to really take concrete action to take steps to address gender-based violence and sexual violence. We've got, the laws are in place, right? And we've been supporting through the sexual assault forensic examination program. We've been supporting training of these professionals, right? And also the response from the professional community has been really, really positive. People are committed, and I think that this is the year, 2012, for people to rise up and speak up. And I think that this 1 Billion Rising campaign, part of this international campaign, is a really good opportunity for all of us to get involved. It's an opportunity for all of us to actually try to change how we view gender-based violence and sexual violence, and make it so that it's absolutely socially unacceptable to commit any kind of crime like that.
True enough. And talking about people who've dedicated their careers to a given cause and something that they really believe in, you are someone like that. With the campaign that you're involved in at the moment, Risen. If you'd just like to briefly tell us what it really is and how you all are specifically involved in the 16 days of activism, and how it's probably a bit more than actually eradicating gender-based violence, because there's also a reconciliation process happening in the middle, because you're involving a lot of youth groups from different parts of the country.
Right. Well, the USAID Risen program, the reintegration and stabilization of East and North, is really about bringing people together and to providing an opportunity for communities to come back and settle and to grow up and to be stable and secure. And each community might have some different needs, and so we have the flexibility to be able to be creative and work with communities to address those things that they're facing as they transition towards a future that's filled with hope, right? I mean, that's really what we're looking for. We're hoping that communities will be in a place where their future is filled with hope for tomorrow and for next year and for the year after that. And so under our program, we've also been doing a lot of work through the SAFE program with a focus on North and East. And so the SAFE program is a national program. We'll be providing training to medical legal officers across the entire country, and also providing sexual assault forensic examination kits to hospitals in every district. But we'll also be doing, we've got a small grant component that's focusing in some of the areas where that infrastructure and those resources are coming up, right? So women development officers, for example, have just been deployed, and they're now actively working in the north, but they don't have any access. They don't know what sexual assault forensic examinations are. So we're training them up. So we're doing one-day training programs, working with women development officers and social service officers, child probation officers. Working with coordinators from the National Child Protection Authority, working with a bunch of really committed, dedicated people, right? I mean, and they're so into the training and getting access to the information, and just learning about what is sexual violence, and what is forensic evidence, and how do we make sure that our children and our loved ones are protected from sexual violence, right?
Exactly,
So we're doing that, and then we're also, like you said, we're bringing together youth from the south and youth from the north, and just kind of building that bridge, and working with youth who are committed to addressing social issues in their communities, and doing it in a very nonviolent, very peaceful way to really make a change, and to use social media, for example, and to get information out, and really to encourage people to speak up, and to that it's time to talk about sexual violence, and that the time is right now. That if we don't do it now, then we're just going to be quiet forever, and it's just going to continue. But if we at least try to talk about it, to find a safe person to talk to about it, then we have a chance of actually making a difference.
Now, you just mentioned a lot to do with the solutions for this problem, which was probably my next question. Now, also another tool that a lot of people use is forum theatre. If you just like to talk about how powerful forum theatre is, and how you all have seen positive results coming out of using this in your campaign.
Sure. Well, for example, during last year's 16 Days of Activism, we did street drama performances across the north and east, and it was really, really powerful. And we had a group from Mathura that also came and participated in the performances, and they're awesome. And so the street drama performances gave everybody an opportunity to really, you can go directly into a village, directly into a community, and you can feel it, right? And you know that this is a problem that's happening. And then you can talk through solutions with your community members, with your friends, with your family, and you can talk through and get ideas about how you can address it in your community. How can you make sure that this isn't going to be allowed to happen at your neighbor's house, right? So I think that it's a beautiful tool. I think that it's highly effective, and it seems that people become very, very engaged, and it gives people the space to do exactly what we're talking about. When you do forum theater, people want to talk about it.
Exactly, and it's also an eye-opener for them to realize that this actually happens in reality, but they really don't get involved. And after getting involved in forum theatre, this makes them, probably motivated to get involved in real life as well. Now, Dawn, just before we wrap up our edition of Good Morning Sri Lanka for today, we'd just like to give out your message to all our viewers out there who are watching the show. Something that you have seen, and something that you want to be seen in the future.
Sure. I guess my message for each and every single one of us is, it's time to do something, right? Like, let's talk about it. Talk early. Talk often. Talk to make sure that you can support your sisters, your mothers, your cousins, your friends, your loved ones, right? Let's talk about it, and let's make sure that we know what resources are available, where they are, and who. If you can just find one person in your community that you can refer someone to, then you can make a difference every single day.
Right, that's it. That's probably the most important tool that we have. Silence, it really puts us back, and we need to talk about it and stand up and speak up. That's what it's all about. Thanks a lot, Dawn, for getting involved with us. And that was Dawn Hayden coming on Good Morning Sri Lanka to talk about some of her experiences and some of her opinions, and also the work that she's been doing. Thanks a lot once again. And with that, I think we have to wrap up today's edition of Good Morning Sri Lanka. It's been a lovely weekend. It will hopefully be a lovely week as well. I hope you have a great day. Stay tuned to MTV Sports.